From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you to this December 7th, 2018's edition of For the People, as I'm sure you've heard the news that our 41st president, George H.W. Bush, has passed away, and all sorts of different memorial services. We saw the son, of course, crying, eulogizing his dad, very emotional, and it's not a surprise that he broke down. He's done this plenty of times for his mother, very close to his father, and followed him into the White House. And we're going to talk about a few items regarding our 41st president, George Herbert Walker, a patriot, a man who probably would take some words back that we've heard on sound bites throughout the years. Read my lips. No new taxes. That kind of haunted him a little bit. Wish he probably didn't make that campaign promise. Taxes did go up. But I tell you, just my earliest recollection of the president, George H., and the lovely First Lady Barbara Bush. She was kind of like, to me, the queen. You know, if there ever was one here in the United States, she would be it. She was beautiful. She carried herself very well, and you could tell that they loved each other. And you could see that. That was very, very evident. And these people were very bright, super bright. And this is a loss for our country. We remember somebody who dedicated himself to public service, to God and country. And starting back, in 1981 until 89, he served as the vice president, if you remember that, under Ronald Reagan. And then in 1989, Bush defeated Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis, and there he became the 41st president of the United States until 1993. George Herbert Walker Bush was born on June 12th, 1924. 1924, folks. Wow. And just to think, the man made it all the way to the ripe old age of 94 and was married for 73 years. George Herbert Walker Bush was born, once again, on June 12, 1924, in Massachusetts, into a wealthy and politically active family. His parents were Dorothy Walker Bush, Prescott Shelton Bush, a former U.S. Senator from Connecticut, and he attended an academy which was called Phillip Academy in Andover, and there Bush held numerous leadership positions, including senior class president, student council, secretary, and captain of both the varsity basketball, is baseball team or basketball? A baseball team and the soccer teams. And then he enlisted in the Navy the same day he graduated from high school, on his 18th birthday. That was in 1942. And then in 1943, some of you were around in right? Some of you. We have some older listeners. They remember. He was the youngest Navy pilot in 1945. The youngest. And then he married Barbara Pierce in 1945. She was 16 years old. He was 21. And they ended up having 6 kids, 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Bush's military career, pretty impressive. If you didn't realize, in 1945, he had flown in 58 combat missions during World War II. He was also awarded multiple military honors, including a Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 air medals. The aircraft carrier in which he served was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And he also attended Yale University, graduated in 1948 with a degree in economics. Like his father, Bush was a member of the Yale cheerleading squad. That's something you probably didn't know. Oh, don't make fun of him because his son, George W., also cheered for the squad when he attended Yale. Yeah. And in 1992, during the state dinner, now this is, oh my gosh, this is things that you probably don't want to remember, where Bush fell ill with the flu and vomited into the lap of Japan's prime minister. Oh my goodness. That wasn't pretty. From 1981 until 1989, he served as vice president under Ronald Reagan, and then 1989, he became the 41st president of the United States until 1993. George H.W. Bush, ladies and gentlemen, died at age 94 on November 30th, 2018. As we can probably remember, Mrs. Bush, she died this April. And she and George had been married for 73 years. And they were the longest married couple in presidential history. Longest. What a love affair. And what a history. What a legacy. And then to see their son get into the White House. Could you imagine what an honor, how proud these parents must have been? And of course, H.W. realized the pressure of the White House, and then when people would say things about W., I'm sure that just, he was a protective father, but constantly gave advice to his son, constantly was there. He was there, been there, done that. And hindsight, as they say, is 20/20, so you can kind of remember your mistakes and things that you don't want your son to make. So that was just an unbelievable deal. A lot of people paying their respects. The mainstream media, they can't resist on beating up Bush, can't resist on saying some snarl remarks on The View. And that's just, and CNN, not the best coverage. As you can imagine, that's just what they do. The old saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. They have to say something negative and bring more of the negatives up than the positives, instead of just letting the man have the honors that he's due to him. Whether you agreed or disagreed with his politics, honor the man. He's in state and buried at the Bush Library. What a wonderful place. And that would be a place to put on your bucket list to visit. If all libraries that you want to visit, that would be a nice one. And I believe I'll visit that. Have you seen the pictures from NASA lately? Unbelievable, stunning resolution. We're talking about the NASA's InSight Mars lander. It's revealing stunningly clear pictures, probably the best, bar none, the best camera that NASA has ever invested. These stunning new images of Mars captured by the InSight lander's robotic arm. You can see at nasa.gov. NASA.gov. The government space agency shared these photos on Twitter, then on its website, like I said, nasa.gov, as it's getting ready to explore the Elysium Plantation, the plane where the lander touched down on November 26th. So they say, raise your hand if you're in this new photo from #Mars, NASA wrote in the tweet. These 2 tiny chips contain the names of more than 2.4 million people who signed up to fly with me. We're on Mars, you guys. You're all honorary Martians. And another NASA wrote, one step at a time. Now that I've got my arm out, I could start making detailed 3D maps of workspace, the area right in front of me where I'd place all my instruments here. And what I've been, here's more of what I've been doing. And that's yet to come. Say, today we can see the first glimpses of our workspace, said Bruce Burnett, the mission's principal investigator at NASA's Jet Propulsion Library in Pasadena, California. And by early next week, he says we'll be imaging in finer detail and creating a full mosaic. In addition to taking the pictures, nearly 6-foot arm will be used to pick up science instruments from the lander's deck. The photos will help the mission team decide where to put the lander's heat flow probe, the only instrument ever to be robotically placed on the surface of another planet. According to NASA, check out these photos. They are just so brilliant. And we're there. We're going to find out more about the planet, more about ourselves, says NASA engineers. And it was kind of touch and go when this puppy landed. When it entered the atmosphere just shortly after 2:40 p.m. Eastern on November 26 and touched the surface at approximately 2:54 p.m. It was the last part of the journey was the most harrowing, according to NASA, calling it 7 minutes of terror due to the agency's inability to control the landing of the spacecraft. Everything was pre-programmed, and it was a flawless landing. I mean, folks, nobody else has done this. We've done this. Nobody else has been there but us. The United States, folks, is leading. And still the space race is respected worldwide for our efforts. So be proud. And I think it's a very proud moment that we are able to send instruments millions of miles away. And yeah, the amount of work that goes into a mission, the thousands of people that are involved with putting these things together, these pieces, these programs, and scripts, and all the finite detail. It's just unbelievable. And you think about, remember all the parts and pieces of the space shuttle. In comparison, the technology that was needed to go to Mars, much more sophisticated. Well, I had to go a lot further. And charting the unknown. Just unbelievable. I don't know, this blows me away. I've always been amazed at space exploration. I have a tweet from Michael. He says, wouldn't our money be better spent on things like homelessness? Maybe. But we've picked up so many things from space in our space program that has made life easier down here. For sure. So, there's a takeaway, if anything. Susan Warren? Oh, my goodness gracious. What is she up to? Well, remember she was trying to capitalize off the DNA test? Pocahontas, as Donald Trump called her. Well, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren is reportedly starting to express her concerns about releasing the data. That's right. She said, however, behind the scenes, Warren reportedly expressed some concern she might have put her relationship with Native American community in jeopardy. And who's releasing this is the New York Times. They're reporting this. Said outside advisors told the newspaper Warren will have to plan to repair any damage and may have to issue an apology statement while confronting the issue of the 2020 campaign trail. As you know, Susan Warren, if you didn't know, she was criticized for conducting the test and accused of pretty much capitalizing on this and scrambling attacks on President Trump as he called her Pocahontas in his campaign-style rallies and on social media, but she has claimed that she has this heritage. And so many people have been cynical, and it turns out she doesn't have too much DNA, apparently, from insiders that's going to really give her any credence whatsoever. So to put this into perspective, Warren might even be less Native American than the average European American. So Warren might even be